this leads perfectly into my next question because one thing that I see with a lot of like small businesses in general is they feel like they're working so hard, pulling their hair out every day just to reach a certain level, right? Of let's say average, right? And when I talk about growth, in their head, I realize like they believe that if you want to double your business, it's going to require more of your time. It's going to be even more stressful. A lot of them are under this sort of impression of, you know, people who run bigger practices or bigger businesses than me. They probably never get to see their kids. They probably, are stressed out. They're working 20 hours a day. And for me, it seems really bizarre. It's like, no, they actually work less than you. Things run smoother. You don't build a business three times the size by working three times more. That's not how you'll ever get there. It's about making the business run smoother without you. And I think this is something that's sort of like more difficult for dentists to grasp because it is a bit of a unique situation. As a dentist, you kind of have to be in that operatory every day for the practice to make money. So there isn't a lot of opportunity for them to just kind of sit back and necessarily run the business, or at least that's what they think. So I want to kind of hear your perspective. You went from, you basically tripled the practice, grew it to, 8 million a year or so. Were you working three times more? Like what was your experience when you tripled the practice? Was it stressful or, I'm going to let you kind of talk about like, what did it feel in that kind of a business compared to your original business?
Yeah, that's a good question. So one of the things I did during those 3 years is I spent a lot of time around other business owners who I was seeking rooms where I was the dumbest person in the room by intention. I wanted to be around people who are running businesses in the 50 to $100 million range so that I could see what these people are like. Are they superhuman? Do they have some special skill that I don't? And the funny thing is you learn the most at lunch with these folks. Like, just sitting there listening to their problems are the same problems that anybody else. They've got kids, they've got life to deal with, they've got all kinds of stuff. But what they have that dentists don't have is that the dentist is wearing 5 hats. And this person in their company is the CEO with a C-suite of executives below them. They have an executive team who are wearing all the other hats the dentist is trying to wear. And so that's the difference, right? So it's not like if I want to grow my practice substantially, that I've got to work substantially harder. No, I have to just rethink how I'm running my practice. So 2 things come to mind on this. First of all, it doesn't mean that just because we took the practice to, quite a large size of an operation, it doesn't mean that that's what the average dentist wants or what any dentist wants. But even if the very first thing that I had to do with my $2.5 million practice was fix that. We had to make that run smoothly because you can't scale chaos. It's, we had to get that down
right.
to, okay, what does this look like? So how do I take off some of these hats? Now I can't afford in a $2.5 million practice to have an executive team, but I can get my team to do more than what they're doing. And that comes down to leadership systems training, right? Especially leadership, like personal growth in as a leader. If you're running any size of an operation is absolutely first paramount. I mean, you're not going to get out of the gate if you don't get your leadership skills down, which isn't hard to do. It's just understanding where you are, what you're trying to achieve and how to get there. And that's something that we teach, the first 2 workshops in our program, as an example, are strictly leadership focused, because if you can then take those hats off and start to give them to your team, the team can run the business to a pretty good degree. Now, as you scale, that gets better because now you can afford even more capable people. And so there's an initial push to kind of get the momentum going from where you are to just kind of get unstuck. But then it's, for thereafter, the practice is easier to run. It's way less stressful, right? Because your team is capable. Most teams are capable of doing way more than what they are doing. It's just that the dentist isn't letting go of things, doesn't have the time in most cases to teach them what they need to know, to grow them as people. And quite honestly, from my own experience, I mean, I'll speak for myself, but I didn't have a model to follow. There aren't a lot of dentists that, run a team-driven practice that are openly, sharing that knowledge of how they did it, or maybe they don't know exactly how they did it. It's just part of who they are. They just have that makeup. But there is a system to this. There is a way to do this. And that's why I mentioned, being in a room around other people who are far more successful than I was at that time shows you that it's really just up to your personal growth and your ambition. It's not like these folks have any superpower or knowledge that you don't have that's inaccessible to you, right? It's just understanding, how do I take my dental practice and apply, what outside of dentistry would be considered common knowledge. But within dentistry, we spend so much time focused on teeth, on CE clinical, rather than personal growth, leadership development, and growing our teams. That makes it seem like it would be difficult. But to short answer your question, a 2x of a practice should be no more time. In fact, it might even be less operational. I would argue it's less operational time required from the dentist than the practice that you're in right now. No question.